Ladies and gentlemen, I do not stand before you today to tell you what you already know. I stand before you to remind you of something far greater, something that, if truly understood, will change your life forever. Everything you experience in life is a direct reflection of the images, thoughts, and emotions you hold in your mind. The world around you is not separate from you. It is an extension of your inner reality, molded and shaped by the beliefs you carry. Every event, every encounter, and every opportunity you face is a response to the assumptions you have accepted as true. Most people believe they are reacting to life, but in truth, life is reacting to them. The unseen forces within, the ideas and emotions that dominate the mind, are constantly being externalized into tangible reality. You have been conditioned to think that reality is something fixed, something outside of your control. You have been taught that circumstances dictate your fate, that the world is rigid, and that success, love, or happiness are things that happen to you by chance or hard labor. But this is an illusion. The truth is that every moment of your existence is a product of your own consciousness. Whether you realize it or not, you are always creating, always shaping, always bringing into existence the contents of your mind. The circumstances you face today were once mere thoughts, repeated and accepted until they materialize. What you impress upon your mind with feeling and certainty must find expression in the world. If you constantly dwell on lack, fear, and failure, life will mirror those exact conditions back to you. If you assume that you are unlucky, that you will always struggle, that happiness is just beyond your reach, then those beliefs will harden into your reality. Your mind is a fertile field, and whatever seeds you plant, whether positive or negative, will grow. The outer world is simply the harvest of the inner world. Change your thoughts, and the harvest must change. You may doubt this. You may think that your problems are real, that they exist independently of your thoughts. But consider this. Have you ever noticed how the same types of experiences seem to repeat in your life? The same disappointments, the same struggles, the same betrayals? This is not coincidence. It is the result of habitual thinking patterns. What you expect, consciously or unconsciously, continues to manifest. Until you change the assumptions that govern your mind, you will continue to see the same results, no matter how hard you try to change things on the surface. This is why effort alone is not enough. You can work tirelessly, but if deep within you hold beliefs of unworthiness, failure, or struggle, your reality will always reflect that state. The key is not to fight against the external conditions, but to transform the internal state that produces them. When you shift your inner dialogue, when you refuse to entertain thoughts of limitation, the outer world must eventually conform. The law is absolute. It does not fail. It is not a matter of chance or luck. It is a principle as reliable as gravity. Most people spend their lives reacting to circumstances, unaware that they are the ones creating them. They live as if life is happening to them, never realizing that life is responding to them. They attribute their success or failure to external factors: society, luck, the actions of others, never stopping to question why certain patterns keep appearing in their lives. But those who awaken to the truth, those who dare to take responsibility for their imagination, find that they can shape their destiny with precision. They understand that they are not victims, but creators. The mind does not differentiate between what is real and what is imagined. When you consistently hold an image in your mind, accompanied by strong emotion, your subconscious accepts it as reality. It begins to direct your actions, your energy, and even the people and opportunities around you to bring that vision into existence. You do not need to know how it will happen. Your job is only to assume the state of already having what you desire, to feel it deeply, and to trust that life will rearrange itself to match that assumption. This is not wishful thinking, it is not idle fantasy. It is a deliberate and powerful process of creation. The reason most people fail to see results is because they lack persistence. They entertain a new belief for a moment, then quickly revert to their old ways of thinking when they don't see immediate evidence. But reality is simply a reflection, and like a mirror, it takes time for the new image to appear. The old must fade before the new can take its place. Those who persist, who remain unwavering in their vision, will inevitably witness their desires materialize. Doubt is the only barrier between you and the life you wish to live. The moment you fully accept a new belief, the moment you abandon your reliance on the physical senses and trust the power within, reality begins to shift. Your only task is to dwell in the state of already having what you desire. You must refuse to let appearances dictate your belief. Appearances are simply past manifestations, echoes of old thoughts. They have no power except the power you give them. When you discipline your imagination and hold fast to a new assumption, nothing in the world can stop it from becoming real. Most will hear these words and dismiss them. They will continue to believe in effort, struggle, and limitation. But for those who are ready, for those who dare to test this truth in their own lives, an entirely new world awaits. One where dreams are not distant wishes but living realities. One where success, love, and abundance are not random gifts, but the natural result of an awakened mind. Everything you experience in life is rooted in an assumption you once made. Every belief you hold, every expectation you nurture, and every certainty you carry within you is forming the foundation of your reality. You may not always be conscious of these assumptions, but they are there, shaping your world with relentless precision. They are the unseen architects of your fate, molding every event, every encounter, and every outcome you experience. Whether you assume success or failure, love or loneliness, abundance or lack, life will unfailingly reflect those assumptions back to you. Most people believe their circumstances define their beliefs, but the opposite is true. It is not the world that conditions your mind, it is your mind that conditions the world. The things you take for granted as just the way things are were once thoughts you entertained, feelings you accepted, and assumptions you embraced. They repeated in your mind until they hardened into fact, crystallizing into the reality you now call your life. You never questioned them, and because you never questioned them, they became the laws that govern your existence. There is no assumption too small to shape the course of your life. A single thought, repeated with conviction, gains momentum until it takes on a life of its own. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, influencing your choices, your actions, and even the way others respond to you. If you assume that people always take advantage of you, life will present you with endless evidence to prove you right. If you assume that money is difficult to earn, your actions will unknowingly align with that belief, and financial struggle will follow. If you assume that you are undeserving of love, relationships will reflect that state of mind, leading to rejection, disappointment, and loneliness. It is not enough to wish for better circumstances while holding on to the same old assumptions. If you continue to believe in limitations, your life will remain limited. If you assume that success is beyond your reach, no amount of effort will override that deeply ingrained belief. The world is not moved by fleeting desires. It is shaped by the assumptions that live at the core of your consciousness. These assumptions dictate your reactions, your emotional responses, and even the opportunities that appear before you. They determine what you expect from life, and what you expect from life is what you receive. Most people are unaware of the assumptions that govern their reality. They go through life reacting to events, never realizing that their reactions are rooted in beliefs they have unconsciously accepted. When things go wrong, they blame circumstances, unaware that those circumstances are only shadows cast by the assumptions they carry. They do not realize that they have been reaffirming these conditions through their thoughts, their words, and their expectations. They do not see that the life they are living today is merely the outward expression of past assumptions that have solidified into fact. Assumptions do not require external validation to become real. They only require belief. When you assume something to be true, whether it is positive or negative, your subconscious mind accepts it without question. It begins working in the background, orchestrating events, guiding your actions, and aligning circumstances to bring that assumption to life. This is why those who persist in a new assumption, even in the face of contrary evidence, eventually see reality bend to match their conviction. What begins as an imagined truth, when held with certainty, becomes an undeniable fact. There is no limit to what you can assume into existence. The same power that shapes your struggles can be used to shape your success. The same force that reinforces lack can be redirected to create abundance. The process is the same, but most people unknowingly assume the worst, allowing negative expectations to dominate their inner world. They prepare for disappointment, brace themselves for hardship, and anticipate failure, all while hoping for something better. But hope alone is not enough. The only thing that manifests is what you believe to be real. To change your life, you must first change your assumptions. You must abandon the belief that external conditions dictate your fate and recognize that it is your inner world that controls your destiny. You must learn to assume the state of being you wish to experience, not as a distant wish, but as a present reality. This means walking as if you already are the person you desire to be. It means thinking, speaking, and acting in alignment with the new reality you wish to create. When you persist in this new assumption, it must harden into fact, just as your past assumptions have. The only reason people struggle with this truth is because they allow their senses to dictate what they believe. They look at their current conditions and assume that they are powerless to change them. But reality is not fixed. It is fluid, always shifting in response to the consciousness that perceives it. The moment you truly accept a new assumption, life begins to rearrange itself to accommodate it. The world will conform to the image you hold in your mind, but only if you persist, without doubt, without hesitation, and without contradiction. Most will dismiss this idea. They will continue believing that life happens to them, that circumstances are beyond their control, and that fate is something to be endured rather than shaped. But for those who recognize that their assumptions are the foundation of their reality, an entirely new world opens up. A world where nothing is impossible, where dreams are not distant hopes but inevitable facts in the making. A world where the only limit is the one you dare to assume. Most people go through life without ever realizing the power they hold within them. They wake up each day, follow routines dictated by habit, and respond to circumstances as if they have no control over what happens to them. They believe that life is something that happens to them rather than something that is shaped by them. They accept struggle, disappointment, and limitation as natural and unavoidable, never questioning why certain patterns repeat in their lives. They do not see that their own thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions are the architects of their reality. They move through the world as if external forces determine their fate. They blame luck, other people, or circumstances for their failures, while crediting hard work or coincidence for their successes. When things go wrong, they believe it is because life is unfair. When things go right, they assume it is temporary or the result of chance. They never stop to consider that their inner world, their thoughts, feelings, and assumptions, is what dictates their experiences. Instead, they remain locked in the belief that they are powerless against the forces of life. Even when they hear the truth, most people reject it. They scoff at the idea that their thoughts create their reality. They dismiss it as wishful thinking, superstition, or mere coincidence. They are too attached to what their senses tell them. If they are struggling financially, they believe that money is simply hard to come by. If they are lonely, they believe that love is elusive. If they are unsuccessful, they assume that only a select few are meant for greatness. Their beliefs have hardened into facts in their minds, and they refuse to see beyond them. They do not realize that their world is merely a reflection of their consciousness. They do not see that their beliefs, no matter how deeply ingrained, can be changed. Instead, they reinforce their limitations by constantly speaking about them, thinking about them, and expecting them. They focus on what is rather than what could be. They continue to reaffirm the same conditions over and over, and then wonder why nothing ever changes. They live by sight, trusting only in what their eyes can see, rather than understanding that reality is shaped from within. Even those who momentarily glimpse the truth often turn away from it. They may hear that their imagination holds the key to their future, but they quickly dismiss it when they do not see immediate results. They expect instant transformation, and when it does not come in the way they want or at the speed they expect, they revert to their old ways of thinking. They do not realize that the outer world is simply a delayed reflection of their inner state. The same patience they extend to planting a seed and waiting for it to grow, they do not apply to the process of shaping their own lives. Most people are enslaved by their past experiences. They let old failures, disappointments, and wounds define them. They assume that because something happened before, it must happen again. They replay painful memories and unknowingly invite those same experiences back into their lives. They do not understand that the past only exists because they continue to carry it with them. They believe they are moving forward, but in reality they are living in an endless cycle, repeating the same thoughts and receiving the same results. They look to external sources for answers, seeking validation, approval, or guidance from others, never realizing that the answers they seek are already within them. They search for signs, hoping for some external force to change their lives, rather than recognizing that they are the force that must change. They believe that success, love, and happiness are things to be pursued, when in reality these things are drawn to the individual who assumes them as already theirs. They wait for life to prove itself to them before they believe, rather than believing first and allowing life to reflect that belief. They remain unaware because awareness requires responsibility. To wake up to the truth means to take full ownership of one's life. It means acknowledging that every experience, every setback, and every triumph is a direct result of inner assumptions. Most people are unwilling to accept this level of responsibility. It is easier to blame circumstances, luck, or the actions of others than it is to look within and change. It is easier to believe in limitations than to challenge them, and so they remain in ignorance, continuing to live by default rather than by design. Even when life presents them with proof of their creative power, they fail to recognize it. When something they feared manifests, they call it bad luck. When something they long for appears, they dismiss it as coincidence. They do not see the connection between their inner world and their outer experiences because they are too attached to the idea that life is random. They ignore the patterns, the synchronicities, the evidence that has always been there. They refuse to believe that their assumptions are the cause of everything they see. Because of this, most will continue living the same lives, repeating the same cycles, trapped in the same limitations. They will hear the truth and ignore it. They will dismiss the very knowledge that could set them free. They will continue to let the external world dictate their inner world, rather than the other way around. They will never realize that their entire reality is waiting for them to wake up, to take control, and to create something new. Feeling is the secret key to everything you desire. It is not enough to think about what you want. You must feel as if you already have it. Most people believe that thinking alone will bring about change, but thought without feeling is lifeless. It is the emotional charge behind a thought that impresses it upon the subconscious mind. You do not attract what you merely wish for. You attract what you feel to be true. Every event in your life is a reflection of the feelings you have allowed to dominate your inner world. People go through life believing they are victims of circumstance, never realizing that their emotions are constantly shaping their reality. They allow feelings of fear, doubt, and unworthiness to take root, and then they wonder why they continue to experience hardship. They do not see that the world is only mirroring back to them the emotional state they dwell in most often. If they feel powerless, life will reflect powerlessness. If they feel abundant, abundance will manifest. It is not the words they speak or the thoughts they momentarily entertain, but the feelings they consistently embody that determine their experience. Feeling is the language of creation. It speaks to the unseen forces that shape reality, sending out vibrations that align with similar frequencies in the external world. Just as a radio must be tuned to the right frequency to pick up a station, your feelings must align with the reality you wish to experience. You cannot expect love while feeling unworthy. You cannot expect success while feeling like a failure. The feeling precedes the manifestation, always. Most people get this backward. They wait for success to feel successful, for love to feel loved, for wealth to feel wealthy. But the outer world is only a reflection of the inner world, and it will only change once the inner feeling has changed. Many believe they can change their lives through force and effort alone. But effort without the right feeling is wasted energy. You can work tirelessly toward a goal, but if deep down you feel unworthy of it, you will unconsciously sabotage yourself. The subconscious mind is impartial. It does not question whether a feeling is good or bad. It simply accepts what you feel most deeply and turns it into reality. If you feel defeated before you even begin, life will give you reasons to remain defeated. If you feel confident and successful, you will move through the world in a way that attracts success naturally. Feeling is what gives power to imagination. A mental image without emotion is weak. It has no life, no energy. But when you infuse an imagined scene with feeling, it becomes alive within you. You begin to experience it as real, and once something is real in your inner world, it must become real in the outer world. The subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined with feeling. If you persist in the feeling of already having what you desire, reality has no choice but to conform. The outer world is fluid, always responding to the inner state of being. Most people fail to change their lives because they allow their current circumstances to dictate their feelings. If they see lack, they feel lack. If they see rejection, they feel rejected. They do not realize that they must feel first and allow the world to catch up. They must feel wealthy even when there is no money in sight, feel loved even when no one is around, feel successful even before the first sign of success appears. This is the true test of faith. To persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, even when everything around them suggests otherwise. The world has trained people to believe only in what they can see, hear, and touch, but true creation happens on the invisible level first. Everything that exists was once unseen, held in the mind and heart of someone who dared to believe in it. The greatest minds, the most successful individuals, and those who have transformed their lives all understood this truth. They felt their vision as real before it became visible. They walked in confidence before the evidence appeared. They lived in the assumption of their success before the world confirmed it. Feeling is not something to be forced, it is something to be cultivated. If you struggle to feel a certain way, begin by immersing yourself in experiences that generate that feeling. Surround yourself with things that uplift you. Engage in activities that make you feel abundant, joyful, and confident. Your subconscious mind does not need words. It responds to feeling. The more you dwell in a feeling, the more natural it becomes, and soon it becomes your dominant state of being. Once that happens, reality shifts effortlessly to match your new emotional frequency. The key is persistence. Most people will briefly feel a sense of success or happiness, only to let doubt and fear creep in. They look at their current conditions and waver in their belief. But feeling must be sustained. It must become habitual. Just as one drop of water does not create a flood, One moment of belief is not enough to transform a life. It must be repeated, reinforced, and lived until it becomes second nature. Once the feeling is stable within you, the outer world will adjust accordingly. Those who master the power of feeling master their lives. They understand that emotions are not mere reactions but tools of creation. They do not allow external events to dictate how they feel. They choose their emotions deliberately, knowing that what they feel today becomes the reality of tomorrow. They do not wait for life to change before they feel differently. They feel differently first, and life changes as a result. The truth is not something to be blindly accepted, it must be tested. It is not enough to hear that imagination creates reality, that assumptions harden into fact, or that feeling is the secret. These ideas mean nothing unless they are proven through personal experience. The mind, conditioned by years of external influence, will resist new concepts. It will demand proof before belief. But the great paradox is that belief must come first. Truth must be tested in the only way that matters, by applying it to life and seeing the results. Most people live in a world of fixed facts, believing only in what they can see and touch. They think that circumstances are set in stone, that reality is something imposed upon them. They do not realize that the world is fluid, shaped by consciousness. To test the truth is to challenge these assumptions, to see for oneself whether thought and feeling have the power to shape experience. It requires stepping beyond what appears real and acting as if something greater is possible. It means daring to believe in something unseen before it becomes seen. The process begins with something simple. Instead of accepting things as they are, one must assume things as they could be. Instead of reacting to circumstances, one must generate a feeling independent of them. If one desires success, let them assume the feeling of success before any evidence appears. If one desires love, let them embody the feeling of being loved, regardless of external conditions. The test is to hold on to this assumption, persist in it, and observe whether reality shifts in response. Those who are willing to experiment in this way will soon discover the power they have always possessed. Many who attempt to test the truth falter because they are too easily swayed by what their senses report. They begin with conviction but soon look for signs in the outer world. If nothing changes immediately, they doubt, and their doubt cancels out their assumption. They do not realize that reality is like a mirror. It takes time for the reflection to change once the inner image has shifted. The delay is not a sign that the principle does not work. It is merely the natural unfolding of creation. Impatience and disbelief are the only obstacles. Those who persist will see results. They will notice small, seemingly coincidental shifts at first, an unexpected opportunity, a chance meeting, a sudden change in circumstance. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Reality is responding to a new state of being. The test of truth is not in waiting for grand miracles, but in observing these subtle shifts, recognizing them as proof, and continuing to apply the principle. The more it is tested, the stronger one's conviction becomes, and soon what was once theory becomes undeniable experience. Skeptics often dismiss these ideas, believing that life is purely mechanical, that external forces alone dictate experience. They insist that success comes only through struggle, that happiness is dependent on conditions, that one's past determines one's future. They never stop to ask whether these beliefs are true or whether they are merely inherited assumptions. The only way to know is to put the opposite idea to the test. Instead of assuming struggle, assume ease. Instead of assuming limitation, assume possibility. Instead of assuming that reality is fixed, assume that it is responsive. There is no risk in testing the truth, only the risk of remaining trapped in an old way of thinking. Nothing is lost by assuming the best, by choosing to feel differently, by expecting something greater. The only thing that stands in the way is resistance, the mind's attachment to what it has always believed. Those who refuse to test the truth do so because they fear disappointment. They would rather remain in the safety of their familiar struggles than risk seeing reality bend to their will. Yet, those who dare to try, even in the smallest ways, will be shocked at how quickly life conforms to their assumptions. The true test is not in occasional attempts, but in sustained conviction. If one applies these principles inconsistently, results will be inconsistent. One must not only assume a new reality, but live from it, think from it, act from it, as if it were already true. To test the truth fully is to embody it completely. It is not a temporary exercise. It is a transformation of consciousness. The longer one remains in the assumption of their desire fulfilled, the more inevitable its manifestation becomes. There will always be those who refuse to test the truth, who dismiss it without ever applying it. They will claim it does not work, yet they have never truly put it to the test. They remain bound by their senses, ruled by doubt, unwilling to challenge the beliefs that have shaped their lives. But those who take even one step into this understanding, who apply it with even a shred of faith, will discover something extraordinary. They will see firsthand that their thoughts, feelings, and assumptions are the true creators of their world. The power is in the testing. Words alone mean nothing. Faith without experience is empty. One must step beyond mere belief and into action, into the deliberate practice of assuming the best, persisting in the feeling of the wish fulfilled and trusting that reality will conform. Those who do this will see results beyond their wildest imagination, and in that moment they will no longer need to be convinced. They will know the truth because they will have tested it for themselves. Every person has been given the greatest gift imaginable, the ability to choose. No matter the circumstances, no matter the past, no matter what the world appears to be, the power of choice remains. It is not the external conditions that shape a person's life, but the decisions they make within. Most people believe they are at the mercy of life, reacting to whatever comes their way, never realizing that they are the ones determining their experiences. They have been conditioned to believe in limitation, in struggle, in forces beyond their control. But the truth is far simpler. Life is a reflection of the choices one makes, whether consciously or unconsciously. The choice is not simply between actions, but between states of being. Every moment, a person is choosing how they see themselves, how they interpret the world, and how they feel about their place in it. These choices accumulate, forming the foundation of their reality. A person who continuously chooses doubt and fear will experience a world that justifies those emotions. A person who chooses confidence and faith will find their life unfolding in ways that affirm their belief. The outer world does not dictate the inner world dictates the outer. Many refuse to accept this truth because it places responsibility on them. It is easier to blame circumstances, luck, or fate than to acknowledge that the power has always been in their hands. To accept this truth is to accept that every experience is self-created, whether by default or by intention. Most people drift through life making unconscious choices, reacting instead of creating, allowing external conditions to shape their internal state. But the moment a person decides to take control, everything changes. They no longer wait for life to improve. They choose to improve it from within. Choice is not limited to the big decisions of life. It is present in every small moment, in every thought entertained, in every assumption accepted. A person chooses how they interpret events, whether they see failure as a setback or a lesson, whether they view obstacles as barriers or stepping stones. Two people can experience the same event, yet one emerges stronger while the other feels defeated. The difference is not in what happened, but in what was chosen internally. The mind is a tool, and its direction is determined by the choices made daily. The greatest power a person holds is the ability to assume the reality they desire before there is any evidence of it. Most people wait for proof before they believe, wait for results before they commit, but that is not how creation works. The world does not give evidence first. Belief comes first and the world follows. The choice is always available to persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled or to surrender to doubt. No one else can make this choice for another. No external force is stopping anyone from stepping into their ideal reality, except their own unwillingness to choose differently. There is no neutrality in choice. A person is always choosing, whether they acknowledge it or not. Indecision is a choice. Doubt is a choice. Fear is a choice. Confidence, faith, and persistence are also choices. Every day presents an opportunity to shift, to direct the mind toward a new possibility, to break free from the cycle of past thinking. The problem is never lack of opportunity, but lack of awareness that the choice has always been there. The moment a person truly grasps this, they become free. They realize they are not bound by anything except the choices they continue to make. Most will never claim this power because it requires them to abandon old patterns. It is comfortable to remain in familiar struggles, to repeat the same thoughts, to react in the same ways. Change demands conscious effort, a willingness to think beyond what has been known. It requires a firm decision to no longer accept anything less than what is desired. The mind will resist at first, clinging to old beliefs, but persistence in a new choice will eventually rewire perception itself. The moment a new reality is accepted internally, the outer world begins to shift. The world is not set against anyone, it is simply responding. If one chooses to believe they are unlucky, life will reflect that assumption. If one chooses to believe they are blessed, opportunities will appear that confirm it. The law is impersonal, always operating, always reflecting what is most deeply held within. Those who understand this do not waste energy fighting external conditions. They do not plead, beg, or hope. They choose. And they persist in that choice until it solidifies into reality. This power is available to all, yet only a few will claim it. Not because it is difficult, but because it requires taking full responsibility. It means letting go of victimhood, of excuses, of the belief that circumstances dictate fate. It means understanding that no one else is holding the key. Only the individual can unlock the door. The mind, when directed with unwavering intent, has the ability to reshape everything. Every person has the ability to step into their ideal self, their ideal life, simply by choosing it and refusing to entertain anything less. Choice is the foundation of all transformation. Every great change in history, every success story, every moment of personal growth has begun with a decision. It is not the conditions of life that determine destiny. It is the choices made within those conditions. The future is not something that happens. It is something that is created. It is shaped by the thoughts held most consistently, by the assumptions persisted in, by the feelings cultivated each day. No force outside the self is greater than the power of choice.